Old days, not in some story. Last year. These are not old wives' tales I am knocking down. All three of these were taught to me by people who knew exactly what they were doing, and all three of them are wrong. Hit subscribe. Let us count them down. Number 3. Wax on the jelly. Every jelly my grandmother made got a lid of melted paraffin poured over the top of it. She kept the wax in a coffee can on the back of the stove, and when the jelly was in the jar and still hot, she would pour a thin layer over the surface and tip the jar around to seal it out to the glass. It went hard and white. When you opened that jar in February, you lifted the wax off with a knife in one piece, and there was your jelly. Every woman in this holler did that. My mother did it. I did it for the first 15 years I kept my own house. And here is what is actually happening under that wax, friend. That layer is not a seal. It looks like one, and it feels like one when you lift it, but wax shrinks as it cools, and it pulls away from the glass in places you cannot see. It cracks when the jar gets moved. Air gets in around the edges and stays in there, in the dark, on top of something wet and sweet. Mold does not need much. It needs a little air and a little sugar and time, and a jelly jar under wax gives it all three. And mold on a sweet preserve is not the same as a spot of mold on a block of cheese. Some molds put off things you cannot see or taste. They run threads down into the jelly well past the part you can see, and scraping the top off and eating the rest is not the fix people think it is. I have opened jars where the wax came up clean and the jelly under it was fine. I have opened jars where the wax came up clean and there was a gray bloom spread across the whole top of it.
Same batch, same day, same shelf. That is the part that got me, gal. You cannot tell from the outside which one you are opening.
What I do instead, 2-piece canning lids, and the jars go in a boiling water bath for the time the recipe calls for. Jelly is high in acid and high in sugar, so a water bath is the right method for it. That is the one place a water bath is exactly correct, and I will come back to that hard at number 1. The lid pings when it seals. The middle goes down and stays down, and a year later you can look at the shelf and see at a glance which jar sealed and which did not without opening a single one. The one rule: if a lid did not go down, that jar is not shelf food. Put it in the cool room and eat it that week. Do not sit it back up on the shelf and tell yourself you will remember which one it was, because you will not. Number 2, the pretty old crock. Now this one hurts, because it is the one I loved. There was a crock in my grandmother's pantry with a brown glaze on it that went almost to black around the rim, and it had been in the family longer than anybody could account for. Kraut went in it every fall. Pickles came out of it every winter. When she died, it came to me, and I put kraut in it for another 9 years without a thought in my head. An old woman who taught pottery over in the next county is the one who asked me about it. Not warned me, just asked what the glaze was, and I said I had no idea, and she said that was the problem. Here's what she told me, and I have checked it since. A great many old glazes have lead in them, not because anybody was careless. Lead made a glaze flow smooth and go glassy and hold a color, and for a very long time that was simply how it was done. Old American stoneware, old imported pottery, old enamelware with the finish gone crazed and worn. Some of it is fine, some of it is not.
And you cannot tell by looking at it. The part that matters for us is what pulls it out.
And look at what we put in crocks in this part of the country. Sauerkraut, pickles, vinegar, tomatoes, anything brined. Acid sitting on that glaze for weeks or months, and every day of that it is working on it. Lead is not something you feel happen. It builds, and it is hardest on children, which in a house where the grandkids come through and eat out of the same jar of pickles is not a small thing. What I do instead, 2 things. There is a lead test swab sold at the hardware store for a few dollars. You rub it on the inside of the piece where the food would sit, and if it goes red, you have your answer. It is not a laboratory, and it will not catch everything. A glaze can pass a swab and still leach a little, but it is $3, and a red swab is a red swab. And the rule I settled on for myself: anything I do not know the history of does not hold food that is acid and does not hold food that sits. If the piece is old and I do not know who made it or when, it holds dry goods, or it holds flowers, or it sits on the shelf and looks handsome. Her crock is on my mantel with dried flowers in it, friend. It did not go in the trash. It just does not hold kraut anymore. The honest limit here. I'm not telling you every old crock in America is poison. Plenty of them are perfectly sound, and modern food-safe stoneware is made to a standard and is fine. What I am telling you is that not knowing is not the same as it being safe, and for $3 you do not have to not know. Number 1. Green beans in a boiling water bath. Here's the one I said would be at the end. The way I was taught to put up green beans was the way nearly everybody up here was taught. You pack a jar, you fill it with water, you put the lid on, and you set it down in a big pot of boiling water for a good long while. Some folks did not even do that much. They cooked the beans, packed them hot, screwed the lid down, and set them on the shelf and called it done. That one has a name. They called it open kettle. I did the water bath. My grandfather did open kettle his whole life. And here's the plain truth of it. Neither one of those is safe for a green bean, and it has nothing to do with how clean your kitchen is or how careful you are. It is a temperature problem, and it cannot be worked around. Water boils at 212 degrees at sea level, and no matter how long you leave that pot rolling, it does not get any hotter than that. There is a thing that lives in soil all over this country, and in the low-acid, airless, wet inside of a sealed jar of beans, it wakes up and it puts off one of the most dangerous poisons there is. Boiling water does not kill what it makes into. It takes more heat than a pot of water can give you. The only thing that gets a jar hotter than boiling is steam under pressure. That is what a pressure canner is. It is not a fancier way of doing the same thing. It is the only way that reaches the temperature that matters. And here is the part that has always chilled me the most, and it is the reason I am spending this long on it.
It does not tell you. A jar of beans that will hurt you can look exactly like a jar that will not.
The liquid can be clear. The lid can be down tight. It does not smell wrong. It does not taste wrong. Every other kind of spoiling in this world gives you a warning, a smell, a fizz, a cloudiness, a soft spot. This one gives you nothing. So the old test I was raised on, open it, smell it. If it smells all right, it is all right, is worth exactly nothing here. That is what took me a long time to accept, friend, because that test served my people well on everything else. Which foods? The rule is acid. High acid food, most fruit, jelly, jam, proper pickles and strong vinegar, kraut that is fermented sour. The acid itself does the protecting, and a boiling water bath is correct and always has been. That is why number 3 still uses 1. Low acid food cannot do that. Green beans, meat, poultry, broth, soup, plain tomatoes without acid added, which surprises people. All of that is pressure canner, or it is not shelf food.
And here is where I stop, the same as I always do.
The times and the pressures are not things to eyeball, and they change with what you are canning and with how high up you live. I am not going to print a number in a video that somebody might follow into trouble. Get them from your state extension service or from the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning. Both are free. Both are written by people who test this for a living, and they have already done the work. Those 11 jars on my shelf, they are green beans I put up in a water bath in 1994, back when I still thought I knew. I have never eaten one, and I never will. I leave them there because every time I go down for a jar of something, I walk past them, and I remember that I did that for years, and that being careful and being right are not the same thing. Now, I want to be clear about something, because I know how this sounds coming from a man who has made his life out of doing things the old way. Nearly all of it holds up. The root cellar holds up. The salt holds up. The smoke, the sand, the crock of kraut under the brine, the eggs in lime water, the onions braided and hung. Those methods are older than this country, and they work because they are built on something true. But some of it was passed down for the same reason anything gets passed down, because that was how her mother did it, and a few of those we should have set down a long time ago. Knowing which is the whole job. And no one is going to tell you, because in my experience, nobody in this line of work likes to say that the old people got anything wrong.
They got these 3 wrong, friend. And I did too, for years. So tell me down below what your family did that you have since stopped doing, and what state you are in.
I want to know which of these is still going on out there. because I do not think it is only the wax. I read every single one of these. Next time I am going to go the other way with it and show you the old containers I do still trust, and exactly how I check one before I put food in it, because I am not telling anybody to throw out their grandmother's crockery. Until then, if you have anything low acid on your shelf that went up in a water bath, beans, corn, meat, do not taste it to find out. Just set it aside.